sense of control, which I know we lawyers like to feel like we have a lot of control over things. And this is certainly, there are many things in life that that prove that that's not the case. COVID has certainly been one of those. Anticipatory grief, meaning we don't know what's coming. Thank goodness the vaccine's starting to come out, but we don't know how long it's going to take for things to get back to quote unquote normal. So there are still maybe some losses ahead.
It's not just being aware of the loss, but there are different types of loss, as you just pointed out.
As lawyers, you can think about the things we already don't have control over. We don't have control over the opposing counsel, the other side, the facts, the law. Having control is sort of a mirage anyway. But COVID has brought home the fact that there are things we don't have control over that maybe we thought we did. Unless we really take a step back and identify these things, we may not even identify them as losses, because it's almost like that old story of the frog in the water.
Commenting on family members, school-age children, and
Yes.
and their losses, and how
Yes.
And sometimes we may not appreciate their loss, or appreciate how their losses impact us as well.
One of the best things we can do to respond to loss is to acknowledge it. But for some of us, as I said, it's ambiguous, so we don't even maybe acknowledge it's a loss. Sounds like a simple concept. We lawyers stereotypically tend to overvalue our heads, our analytical abilities over our hearts and our emotions. And to acknowledge these things takes the power away from them, doesn't erase them, but helps you process and work through them more.
Many lawyers deal with others' losses and grief, daily. So they're sort of battered, realizing it's okay to feel kind of down or lost or uncertain. Or those feelings may be normal, because it's a crazy time, and there's a lot going on.
Often people come to us because they're having problems, and they're not in their best light also in terms of how they're behaving. And we can hear some difficult stories, vicarious trauma. We can experience through their stories some of the trauma that our clients have had. The point is, many of us are kind of working from home, and we're presenting, at least the top half of us is presentable. The bottom half, who knows? I actually do put shoes on for this when I present.
We know you're wearing shoes. You said you're wearing shoes.
But, I didn't mention the bottom half of me. That's true.
Right.
I'm wearing pants, just so everyone knows.
Too much information. The second thing I wanted to point out, as a former risk manager, is how cluttered the space is. Our home space, we wouldn't keep our office space like that. And
Very
that's
true.
When accidents happen. That's when mistakes happen. That's when malpractice claims happen.
The environment that we're working in, that can make a huge difference in how we're feeling. So the whole idea of surge capacity is that we are built as humans to deal with stressful situations. But what's going on here is that this is something that's been going on for 8 or 9 months now without an end. And we're depleted. We don't have the capacity to deal with something like this, and it impacts us. So how do we deal with a depleted surge capacity? Accept that life is different right now. Again, sounds simple, but for some of us, we resist that. Expect your productivity to be impacted. That can be hard for those of us who are high achievers. We're all beginners at this. No one has experienced a pandemic before. To be patient with ourselves and know that our productivity is not going to be the same at times.
And he says these days it's very difficult to move litigation along. Delays are accepted more and more by the court, et cetera. Hard to create leverage to settle. Much more stress.
I love presenting in a room to people. I am thrilled that I have Zoom to continue to do programs, and I love that I can still do it, and I still enjoy it. It's not the same. So I just wonder, for litigators, I would imagine they love being in the courtroom. We can tend to, as humans, and I think particularly as lawyers, get into either or thinking or black and white thinking. And really most of what we deal with day to day is more gray. So both and thinking would be, I'm highly competent, and there are days where I'm not as productive or competent as I want to be. You can have a rough day productivity wise and still be a competent person and productive most of the time. Look for activities that continue to fill you up. Some of these activities have been taken away. So that's important to think about too. Are there things that you have implemented during COVID that are different that you want to continue even after COVID is out the door? And you see the second bullet: focus on and maintain and strengthen important relationships. We've had a lot of withdrawals for the last few months, energy-wise. What can we do to make deposits? Sleep. Go to sleep at a regular time. Wake up at a regular time. Eat well. That's one of the things that I've heard, and certainly for me, I've had to be intentional about not going to comfort food too much. Exercise, whatever that looks like, can be walking, jogging, yoga, and meditation doesn't have to mean lotus position. Self-compassion, I talked about that before. Be easy on yourself.
Resilience is such a huge quality to have in times like this, and that law firms are now testing and interviewing applicants to test for their resilience. And
resilience is really just the ability to deal with adversity, to bounce back from adversity. If you say to yourself at the end of the day, I am incompetent, or I stink as a lawyer, that's going to make you feel pretty depressed. But if instead you say, I've had a rough day, I haven't been as motivated as I usually am, I'm disappointed about not getting this brief done, I'll take care of myself tonight, I'll get a good night's sleep, and tomorrow I'll be back at it. With all the losses, with all the negative impacts of COVID, there's still things to be grateful for. Lawyers have been trained to look for what's wrong, to look for problems. We're problem fixers. That's makes sense. That can become a problem if that's all we do. We need to break that habit outside of our practicing and look for what's right. You don't have to take every assignment on. Now, of course, I do work with young associates who are just starting out, and it's hard for them to say no to anything. But saying no, whether it be to something at work or something outside work, is really important. Honestly assess whether the place where folks are working, this place where I help create the culture, is a healthy place to be. And be aware of what is happening right now. So it's just noticing things in the moment and being curious about how you feel and what you're thinking and not judging it. The more you can accept and be present with it, the more the anxiety will reduce. When you are mindful, when you are assessing your thoughts and your emotions in the moment, you then have the opportunity to make a different choice of how you react to it. But it gives you the ability to break that habitual way of reacting to adversity and decide, okay, why am I feeling this way and what can I do about it? And then proceed intentionally. But they don't realize that self-care can happen during the day as well. So think about, what are the things during my day that take the most out of me? What's something I can do to replenish myself? Do something to move your body. Just get up from your seat. Focus on your breath. What are 3 things that I am grateful for? And do this for 21 days in a row. And it's 3 new things each day. For me, I mentioned pizza, a good piece of pizza. It will force you to look for the positive and look for what you're grateful for.
I'm up to 21 things now, Michael. 21.
Hey, wow. That's
yeah, and I haven't shown
Todd.
up on my wife's list yet, but I'm thinking that I will. Just remember that the Alta Pro Risk Purchasing Group, who's putting on these webinars, our whole goal is to deliver high quality, value-added services designed to help you manage risk.